All right, so this video is on 1.5a. It's rewriting equations, and make sure you put the date, please, up here in the corner, the date. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking equations with multiple variables. Sometimes people call them literal equations. It's an equation that has two or more variables. Perhaps you could underline two or more variables, because instead of just having an equation with x, where x equals a number, you're going to get an equation with maybe x, y, z. It could have t in it. And your answer is not going to be x equals a number. It's going to be x equals a bunch of algebra. So we're solving for one variable, quote, in terms of the other. In other words, get all the variables moved around so that you have the one variable that you want. So let me tell you what I kind of mean by that. Let's kind of talk about a literal equation. So one example is the example area equals pi r squared. Maybe this is a little bit tricky, so I'll try a different formula. I'll try area equals 1/2 base times height. So if I look at this formula and I say area equals 1/2 base times height, and I want to get rid of the 1/2, I could multiply 2 on both sides. We know what to do with numbers, and that cancels out. But let's say I wanted to get h alone. So now I have 2a rather equals bh, b times h, right? And I want to get h alone. If I have b times h, what do I want to divide by? I want to divide by b, right? So what we'd want to do here is we'd want to divide both sides by b, and we get the answer of h equals 2a divided by b. This is a super informal example. So let's talk about some real examples right down here. So this equation is solve the equation 2y plus 5x equals 6 for y. So what you might want to do is just kind of underline the y. Your paper isn't color-coded necessarily, so you probably just want to underline what you're solving for. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remind you of how you solve this equation first of all. Let's say you were solving 2y plus 5 equals 6. So think about how you'd solve that equation. Look at the equation in the top right and think about what you do. A lot of you know that the thing to do is to subtract 5 and subtract 5. Now I'm going to do something weird here. I'm not going to put the 6 and the negative 5 together. I'm just going to leave them side by side. And there's a reason for that. I'll explain in a minute. So I'm going to leave the 6 and the minus 5 together like that. And I'm going to put 2y here. Now if I'm trying to get y alone, I know that I need to divide by 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I guess I'd divide everything by 2 like that, and I'd have y equals whatever. And I know that 6 minus 5 is 1, so I'd have y equals 1/2 in this case. But the idea is to do the same exact process. So look at the blue where I subtracted 5. Let's go to this equation on the left side and think about what we need to subtract. Hopefully you're thinking, I need to subtract 5x. I can't subtract 5, I need to subtract 5x. So if you subtract 5x on both sides, it's right here, then you'll have the following. These will cancel. The 5x will cancel the 5x. And you'll have what's called, you'll have 2y equals, the problem is, what do we do with the 6 and the 5x? You can't put them together, so you got to put them side by side. They can't combine because they are not like terms. They're not like terms, so you got to put them side by side. So now, we have an ugly looking equation, yes, that's true. But we're almost done. And you don't really need to do a lot of math. You don't need to do a lot of addition, subtraction, negatives, positives, multiplication. All you need to do is get y alone. So if y has now got this 2 in front of it, and that's multiplication, I know I want to divide both sides by 2. So for right now, I'm going to call this a good answer. It'd be totally fine to say this. Y equals 6 minus 5x over 2. This is what I would call a good answer. But I want to talk to you about, not God answer, a good answer. A good answer, but what would be a better answer would be simplifying this a little bit. So if you could simplify this a little bit, you'd think about this like, let's say y equals 6 divided by 2 minus 5x divided by 2. I divided both of these by 2. And I know that that means y equals 3 minus 5x over 2. This is the best answer. But for today, while you're learning, I just want you to think about how to get the good answer for right now. Okay, so like we were saying, we have good answers and we have better answers or best answers. Now, the difference is that this good answer isn't simplified. Yeah, you did the job. You got the y equals alone. You got y by itself. But you didn't really simplify. Like, this is kind of an ugly looking thing. You can't do a lot with it. It's okay to have that for today. But 2 days from now, 3 days from now, you know, on the test when we get there, we want to have that red answer, which is the best answer, where we actually simplified the fraction out. So we saw that 6 divided by 2 gave us that 3, and we saw that the negative 5x divided by 2 gave us the negative 5x divided by 2. So we did a little bit more work, but don't worry about it too much until you're comfortable with the first part. Now we're going to go on to one more of these, solve the equation for y. So let's try to think about what we were doing. You can underline the y if you like. Let's use the same procedure. We know that this minus x is kind of like what we need to get rid of first, so you're going to use addition and subtraction. That's gone. So 10 and x, they can't go together. It's not 10x, it's 10 plus x. And they cannot go together. And you're finally left with 5y equals 10 plus x. You need y alone, so you got to think about what your next step is going to be. Yes?
What you can do is you can divide by 5 on both sides.
So the answer came that you could divide by 5 on both sides. Now, you can divide by 5 on both sides like this, make it look exactly like this. But if you want, you could say, let's say, for example, you could divide it into 2 fractions. I don't have a preference here, but some people prefer this. I don't know if that's you or not. Now, this is a totally acceptable answer on today. But if you think about it for a second, don't you think 10 divided by 5 could just be written as 2? So couldn't we say, nice, thank you. So we have y equals 2 plus, I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to put 1 over 5x. This is the best answer you could possibly get. Totally, it's okay to say this. This is okay, but it's kind of like meh. It's not the worst. Y equals 10 plus x over 5. This is still the answer, but this is the best answer. It's the most simplified. So focus on getting at least to the red bubble. If you can get us to the black bubble, you're doing awesome. And now let's look at number 2. And in just a moment, we're going to pause the video and try it. Actually, I think what we might do, we might switch things up here a little bit. No, actually, I think we're fine. So we'll work on number 2. So let's look at this one. So underline the y, because remember, you're solving for y. I could make you solve for x, but we're solving for y. We're going to focus on whatever's not touching the y first, whatever terms need to be moved by addition subtraction. So we subtract the 4x on both sides. Gone. Now we have a negative 4x here, but we cannot combine that with the 1 because they're not similar terms. And what we're left with is negative 4y equals 1 minus 4x. And we need to get the y alone, so we need to get rid of the negative 4, which is multiplied by the y, so we need to divide by negative 4 on both sides. And this is a totally fine answer. I'm totally okay with that. But if we wanted to take it one more step, and you want to think about what's coming in the future, we need to simplify it a little more. We need to say that y is equal to, why don't you go ahead and think about this? The 4 is going to divide into both of these pieces. So we're going to have negative 1/4 plus 1x. Okay, let's think about that for a second. We had, if you look at this, it's 1 over negative 4 minus 4 over negative 4. We know that this is going to be a plus plus, right, because it's minus a negative, and 4 over 4 is 1. So this is our best possible answer. You can also write it as y equals x minus 1/4. That's also okay. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where we're at. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and give this problem a shot. So pause the video. You can look back at these problems, so I'll keep it like this. Pause the video and give number 3 a shot. I'll see you in just a moment. All right, so hopefully you paused the video and tried that. If you had an answer, I'm going to read the answer. I'm going to say it, what the answer would be here. So the answer would be a few different things, okay? Some of you might have y equals 4 minus 2x. That's fine. Some of you might have something more like even something equals y is fine. So you might have 12 minus 6x over 3. That's also fine. But our best answer is going to be y equals, I guess, 4 minus 2x. That's our goal, okay? So either one of these is okay, but our goal is the bottom one. So we're going to go on and talk about just the last part. So you can flip that paper over and look on the back. And you see how it says the red variable? Well, chances are your paper is not in color, so you should underline that variable that we're trying to solve. Or you can just write 4b. That's fine. So I'm going to underline, and I'm going to show that we're trying to get b alone. So think about that for a second. B is squashed up against, right? Squashed, is that the correct word? Up against the H. So we want to get rid of the H. How do we do that if it's squished up against it? Yes, thoughts?
Divide by H.
The answer came here, divide by H. So we'd like to divide the H because it's multiplied by H right now. That's gone. So we wind up with H on the bottom here, A on the top, and that's going to equal B. That's the answer. That's it. And this is a B, okay? So the answer is A over H equals B. So looking at question 5, maybe if you're feeling up for it, you could think about solving that on your own right now. Why don't you try it? I'll leave this here in case you want to watch it. Try it. I'm going to solve it in just a second. So I'm going to encourage you to pause if you're able. If you're not able, just keep playing the video and we'll talk about it. So this next thing we're going to do, it's very similar. The P is what we're solving for, and it's multiplied by R and T at the same time. Now we could divide by R and then divide by T because they're both being multiplied, or we could just divide by RT at once. All at once. So if you divide both sides by RT at the same time, you'll be done. That's it. So this is going to cancel out, and you'll get P equals, this is an I, by the way, not that it matters too much, I over RT. You'll notice that your answer does not simplify out to a number. That's what these rearranging or literal equations are all about. Lastly, we want to talk about question 6. 6 is a little tough. We're getting a little low on time, but I want to show this one. I think it's a pretty tricky one, okay? So I want to get rid of this 1/2. The number can still be gotten rid of as anything would be, so how would we get rid of that 1/2? Anybody? How would we get rid of that 1/2? Yes. The answer, multiply by 2. So the answer came to get rid of a 1/2, we can multiply by 2, okay? So that goes away. The 1 doesn't really need to be there. It can if you want, but we have 2a equals bh. Now remember, we're solving this for h, so I'm going to underline in green this time. And we've seen this before, b times h, so we know that we need to divide by b on both sides. So if we divide by b on both sides, we're going to have 2a over b. 2a over b is equal to, and that's a b, h. That's our answer. So that's it. I want to keep it short. We're going to wrap it up there. The last thing you'll do is if you're at home, this is a now you try. I want you to try this one on your own. And if you're in class, I'm going to ask you to complete this on an index card so that I can have that and take a look at how you did. So I will see you in the next video. I hope that made some sense. Peace.